Henry Farfeely comes in for Kangaroos. Craig Wing and Craig Fitzgibbon, two debutants, both from the Roosters. Steve Menzies, also Willie Mason, and their coach is Chris Anderson. Well, there's the lineup, and there is the Kangaroo dressing room. And I imagine many of these, David, have been there before. Plenty of experience in this green and gold outfit.
Well, it's what they do about winning the games at this level. It's a method that they approach rugby league with. We haven't talked about the coaches. Gary Freeman's in, I think, in his second test match, and Chris is in certainly more than that and has a fantastic record at this level and even through the premiership. So experience at the coaching level is also important in the outcomes to this.
There's a few Aussies there, whether they live in New Zealand or they've made a trip across the Tasman. I'm sure they'll be outnumbered by the Kiwi fans. David, the Aussie team, in terms of match fitness, only two of them played in last week's grand final, and both of them are on the bench.
Yeah, well, the others have been preparing. Some of them have been preparing for a month for this game, and arguably they could be a little bit scratchy. I'm not 100% sure of the weather conditions, but it's all to do with the mental preparation at these things. It's a 6-day preparation for some of them. It's been a month preparation for others, so it's not a unified group of people. And the role that the coaches, of course, have played is to pull that group of men together and say, this is the purpose and this is your purpose. Australians are well aware that they are very, very vulnerable. I thought they were vulnerable in November a couple of years ago, and they're vulnerable again tonight.
It's been a remarkable turnaround for rugby league in New Zealand over the past couple of years. 52-0, they were whacked by the Aussies in 2000. The Aussies again won the World Cup in 2000. Last year the gap narrowed, 28 points to 10 in favour of the Aussies over New Zealand, but largely New Zealand Warriors, I guess, have had a big influence in the turnaround of the game in New Zealand.
It's a belief thing. Stephen Kearney's the one that talks about belief now, and it's the belief in this side that they won't put the Aussies up on a pedestal. They believe that they're equal, if not better than them, and that's a nice psychological start. And most sides have to approach it that way. The thing that really fascinates me will be the side without Andrew Johns and the influence of Kamali and Stacey Jones. And the big battle, of course, is up front. And I still think, even though I think you think New Zealand can do it, I still think up front, with Webke and Stevens and Medeiros, they probably hold the edge.
Well, there's Gordon Tallis walking behind his coach, Chris Anderson. Gordon Tallis. Chris Anderson, in fact, during the week, David, he said, go out there, enjoy your game. I don't care if you talk to the referee or not, just have a big one. So there's Gordon Tallis leading his men down the tunnel. Let's now cross live to our commentators from Wellington, and they are Phil Gould and Andrew Voss.
October 15, 1999, a nail-biter when New Zealand won 24-22. The 85th meeting between the nations in Test Rugby League, and the Australians arrived to a chorus of predominantly boos and jeers of the crowd. Westpac Trust Stadium, appropriately named the Cake Tin. Not capacity tonight, but still quite a buzz in the Shaky Isles after the efforts of the Warriors in reaching the grand final. No Andrew Johns for this Australian side that was so devastating in their last Test appearance back in July this year against Great Britain, a 64 points to 10 victory. Brett Kamali, the man who replaces Andrew Johns tonight, with 5 Test matches under his belt. Big shoes to fill, but he has performed so well. In fact, he was man of the match when they wiped out the Kiwis 2 years ago, 52-0. New Zealand, their last-minute preparations, not just for players, but for coach Gary Freeman, a big night. Only his 3rd Test match in charge. And dare I say, a little bit of Gary Freeman cunning here, leaving the Australians out on the ground nice and early. It's almost as if they're saying, we will play on our terms. This is our stadium. This is our country. We'll come out when we're ready. Darren Lockyer has been in doubt for the Test with a flu. Over to Stacey Jones. Second massive occasion for him within 7 days. Captain of the New Zealand Warriors, beaten by the Roosters, and now tonight captain of his country. 27 Test matches, and this one of his finest moments. A hero of New Zealand, taking out his troops. And so much depends on this little man, one of the best in the game. Clinton Torpey in the centres, playing only his 3rd Test tonight. He's a real players that have played 2 and 3 test matches only in this Kiwi side, and then you have the experience of Jones and Kearney and Wiki, who between them almost have 100 test matches. David Solomona will come off the bench tonight, sporting the national colours. His Eels teammate David Violecki at fullback. So certainly the atmosphere is right. There is a feeling that the upset can happen, that this will be the Kiwis' night, that they will exact some revenge for last weekend's grand final defeat. Some of these players, their first match in 5 weeks.
Please ask you to be outstanding for the national anthems of Australia and
national anthems tonight
please
to be performed by Teresa Tapp.
Performers and singers, if you would please welcome Teresa Tapp.
And I guess this crowd, this stadium holds up around 35,000. We're looking at probably 25,000. Teresa.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Teresa will now deliver the New Zealand national anthem. Very well done, and it has certainly fired up the fans, and the Haka will do likewise. They had a rehearsal, the Kiwis, earlier in the week, just to run through the drill for some of the newcomers to the test lineup. The likes of Matt Utai and Andrew Lomu shown the ropes on how to build out this pre-match ritual. And Stephen Kearney, history tells us, will always be the leader. Not the captain of the side, but the leader of the Haka. And he will deliver it as if his life depended on it. It really is the war cry of the New Zealand team. And the Australians will face off to the Kiwis during this. Yeah, Stephen Kearney and Ruben Wiki up front. They're the two veterans. Kearney 39 test matches, Ruben Wiki 32 tests. Marvellous achievements for both players. Chris Anderson, Australian coach, was predicting plenty of aggression early, even more so than you would expect in a test match tonight. I think his words were a ferocious opening 20 minutes. Bill Harrigan is in charge of the game. He may well have his hands full.
Stay behind the kick.
Completes his commitments for the year. And the Keno test match is underway with young Lance Ohio. And it is Webke who comes back and runs into CU. Well, is that a sign of things to come? Webke stopped in his tracks on tackle one. And Tallis has lost it. In fact, it was Scott Hill on a terrible pass. And the Kiwis on the attack 20 metres out. Wiki is held up. The Australians rattled in the first two tackles of the game. Jones pops it inside for CU. Playing only his third test match tonight. They are 15 metres away. An unexpected opportunity so early. Inside ball, and Rahihi has his first touch in test football. Back for Jones. And on it comes for Utah. They get very close to the line. In fact, there's 5 in the tackle for the Kangaroos. And held up in goal. Well, Phil Gould, what a start for the home team.
Oh, that's an understatement. Ferocious defence in the first tackle of the game. Belding Shane Webke, the dummy pass was a poor one. And from there, the New Zealanders have controlled the football, and this man, Utai, in off the wing, charging towards the line. Held up, Tallis is there, Badiris is there, Tate is there. Harrigan had enough. Scrum win to the Kiwis.
This is really game on. The Kiwi chant up. Violecki in from the scrum and held up by Gidley. Australians under pressure. Defending 10 metres out from their own line. Lauatiti has got the ball away. And now only 2 metres from the line. It was Vangana who played it. And back for Jones. Wasn't the best of passes. Inside for Kearney. And that allowed the Australians to rush up in defence. Badiris made the tackle. Swain out of dummy half. Swain is over. Well, that is a wake-up call for the green and golds. Richard Swain has marched over for the try. Quite unbelievably in the opening minutes of this test match. It is 4-0.
Great start there for the Kiwis, and I've seen Richard Swain do this on a number of occasions. The defence looking up at what's in front of them. They've got the likes of Stacey Jones, Kearney and players out there, and all of a sudden this man, Richard Swain from dummy half, catches them napping, gets out. Kennedy comes from the blind side. He can make no stop on the play. And Richard Swain, unwanted by the Melbourne Storm earlier this year, picked up by the Broncos, has opened this test match for New Zealand in the perfect way.
And it is Richard Swain who will look to convert the try. Incredible start. From 20 metres in from touch, Swain's kick successful. It is 6-0, test football on the wide world of sports. Richard Swain has signed with the Broncos for next year. But that close to a career highlight, that try. We are back with the action and play underway. New Zealand with Rahihi tackled on his own 20. A 6-0 scoreline. A try. You've got to wonder what happened to the markers. Jason Stevens was slow to react. Ben Kennedy likewise. And 4 became 6. And here he is again, the try scorer, Richard Swain. Passing for Lauatiti. Causing some troubles for Gidley. And getting the pass away. And now for Feely. He's on the sprint. He is 20 metres from the line. Kennedy gets him from behind. Lockyer looked a little unsteady. They are 12 metres away. It is a rush of black and white jumpers. Ohio, long ball out in the centres is Rahihi. And tackled 10 metres out. And Harrigan had played advantage. And the Australians are caught offside. And on this sort of roll, you just about take the tap, don't you?
White. Take the 2.
Well, Stacey Jones has decided upon a kick a goal. He was keen to get on with it. I think a lot of the teammates were. The cooler heads have prevailed. An 8-0 lead in the opening moments of the test match is a huge lead. And haven't they started well, the Kiwis? Lauatiti out there on the left-hand side. Got on the way to Torpy. On the way to the late replacement, Farfeli, who showed real speed down the left-hand side of the field. The Australians were all offside. They just wanted to get up and prevent the try. Here's Lauatiti around the corner. Torby gets it away again, one-handed pass to Farfeli, who was on a standing start. He had to show the speed himself. Comes down, Lockyer got across very, very well, picks the left foot step, gathered him in. And now Richard Swain with an opportunity to put the 8 in front.
Swain from 12 metres out. He bangs over another 2. An 8-0 lead to start here. I think they're offered 6.5 start back at home. And this Keno test, an 8-0 scoreline. Lauatiti 2 on that previous rush. That's a contrast already to the grand final. First time he attempted an offload in last Sunday night's match. Came up with a spilt ball. Confidence here straight away. His first attack down that left side. And CU. He's a fearless leader for them in the forward pack. He's no spring chicken. He's waited a while for his opportunity at this level. And he left his mark with the very first tackle tonight on Webke. They settle down again with Kearney. And Kennedy comes up. Not a lot of football under the belt for Ben Kennedy this year. Swain. Rahihi is enjoying his test debut. Former member of the New Zealand Navy, Paul Rahihi. Swain back infield. Jones will kick from just outside the 30. He's got them rushing back. El Masri, it bounces back over his head. There wasn't a great deal of urgency once it had bounced back over his head, but the Kiwis were still ready to chase through.
We may have a problem here for a Kiwi player. Looks like the replacement, Farfeli. That ball came back from El Masri. Just lands in the field of play. Farfeli has tried to keep it infield. Now, I think he may have torn a hamstring here. He clutches below the buttocks straight away, and he is limping back into position. But that would be a blow for the Kiwis if he was forced to leave the field. Motu Tony is their only back reserve.
Ridley is with the ball for the Australians. Happy to have the ball in their hands too. Lasted only 1 tackle the first occasion. Some heavy defence again. It's punishing stuff on Barrett. Ohio was there with Wiki. And now Jason Stevens.
And Shane Webke's down in back play. I don't know whether he got a finger in the eye or perhaps winded himself. He's joining the action now, but he was struggling there for a while to get back into the play.
Kennedy with it. The Australians inside the New Zealand half for the first time in the match. Buderis working a short blindside with Kamali. It wasn't the best attempts from Rahihi in the tackle, and Kennedy gets away now. So all of a sudden the Australians get a little move on here. But it is the last tackle. They're 25 metres away. And Barrett quick to ignite down that right side. The kick from Gidley. Doesn't apply the pressure. It goes touch and goal. It will be a restart at the 20-metre line. And an 8-0 scoreline to New Zealand after just 7.5 minutes.
Well, that looked good there from the Australians. They made good ground in that set of 6. Decided to run the ball on the 5th tackle down the short side. Gidley out of room, puts the left foot to the ball, couldn't keep it in field. Races out over the in-goal, which I've got to say, Vossi are huge in goals tonight. At around the 10-metre mark, which is bigger than what we see in the NRL competition on a weekly basis.
Pitches tonight courtesy of Sky NZ. They would be loving the start. Paul Rahihi with the ball again. His 4th hit up for the match. 30 metres out. And back for CU, where one prop goes, the other follows. And Webke was there, but wasn't able to lock up the ball. Touch of basketball about the pass from Jerry. Now 5 inside their own half, and Swain kicking out of dummy half and ricocheted off the midriff of Buderis. It is play on for the Kiwis. Great pick up by Utai. His 2nd touch in the match. And now Harrigan rules the ball turned over. And quite luckily, the Kangaroos come up with it, because I think it would have been a restart of the tackle count for New Zealand. No doubts about that.
Yeah, good pick up there by Utai, and great hustle by Richard Swain. Gee, he's an energetic player. Got him behind the line there once he saw an opportunity to get his little kick back.
And the ball has been pinched off Webke. There were 2 in the tackle. So a penalty that will certainly help the cause of the Australians, and a little bit of back chat there on Bill Harrigan. In fact, we'll have a caution out of all of this, and a blood bin as well. But CU got there first, and then Rahihi, and then Kearney joins in.
He was a little unlucky there, wasn't he? The second player only joined. I think he already had the ball in his grasp and was heading off with it.
On the red.
Some opportunity here now for the Australians to apply some pressure.
It is Jason Stevens taking the first hit up.
Leave him up, quick.
30 away from the New Zealand line, and another penalty.
The hand was on the ball first.
So Bill Harrigan called into the action early.
Couldn't get a quick play the ball.
And the Australians had a kick-off of their own here at Westpac Trust Stadium. No doubt Tazim El-Masri would be the first choice kicker. Had some practice for the likes of Fitzgibbon and Kamali earlier this week. Here is Webke. He would be hurting still from the first hit up of the match. Back for Tallis, his Broncos teammate.
Okay, Steve, let go now, Steve.
They are 5 away, their
Quickly.
best chance yet. Baderis at dummy half. For Kamali, along for Barrett. Beautiful passing for Lockyer. And Lockyer a jink, but held up in the tackle of Torpy.
Don't go
Still
early,
5
Steve.
away. Gidley for Stevens. He crouches forward, was able to offload, and then Kamali is shut down quickly. It was Wiki up there, the Terminator. Barrett, 10 metres out from the line. Barrett runs and passes, and the Australians score through Gidley. Runs it round underneath the crossbar. And don't you love it when Trent Barrett takes them on?
Yeah, great football there from Trent Barrett. The Kiwis were getting up quickly on the Australians. A great tackle by Ruben Wiki on the halfback Brett Kamali, but from the ensuing play, Trent Barrett shows the ball inside. He looks inside, he shows it outside, able to slice through, and with the left hand, a one-handed pass to Matt Gidley. Now, he's the right centre who's come from the far side of the field to support his 5'8". That's good combination from the Australians. Trent Barrett, the ability to hold the ball in one hand. Jerry Siasuyu didn't realise he was needed until too late. A half a yard short of making the tackle that counted, and Gidley runs around underneath the post. Took his time getting this one down too. One of the Kiwis have a little bit of a slap at it here with his foot. It's a good hit back by the Australians.
It was a Hazem El-Masri wearing the green and gold for the first time tonight. He has played international football for Lebanon. Played at the World Cup in 2000. In fact, will play for Lebanon again in just a few weeks' time against France. The leading point scorer in the NRL this year. And he would love this in front of the sticks first kick. He is successful. It is 8-6, the one-off test. Australia and New Zealand. And Gidley coming up with a try, the Newcastle centre. Mixed year for him. But his second half to the year was far better than the first.
Stay behind.
And here on a Saturday night in the New Zealand capital. A good contest has opened.
One now, back to me,
And
fellas.
Stevens
One
carries back from the
Mark it
kickoff.
up straight.
Gidley, the try scorer for the Kangaroos. Swain for the Kiwis.
2, have a look. Here we are.
Webke, the man playing it, as they come left with Tallis. He was basically taken off the leash this week by Chris Anderson, saying,
Here we are.
play as aggressive as you possibly can. Don't worry about being sin-binned or even set off. Kamali sliding as he kicked and fielded on the full by Violecki.
Yeah, Gordon Tallis running onto that pass. He had Lancer higher in his sights, running at the smaller man on the edge of the ruck, but slipped over. I think we'll see plenty of that. Big Gordon Tallis taking on the Kiwi 5'8". Lancer higher as a penalty now to the Kiwis. Danny Badiris pushing in to play the ball. Reacting to a bit of a push and a shove from the Kiwi front rower. Well, it was Violecki actually.
Plenty more penalties than you could usually expect from Bill Harrigan in a big match. Tends to just let things unfold. And now Andrew Lomu out there in his
One, fellas.
test
Ball
debut.
on
What a
the
week.
other,
Grand
hold,
final
hold.
last Sunday night. Winner's ring, and then backing up for his test debut tonight. Jones passing across for Kearney. Bit of pressure applied there by Kamali.
2, you must make it back. Green, come on, pull back.
And this is 40 metres away from the Australian line. Lauatiti out of dummy half. He had that left arm free, as he invariably does.
Pull back.
Wasn't able to offload that time, but that will be the exception rather than the rule. Here is Siu. He is so tough to contain. Again able to offload. Hahaya with the ball. Only 19 years of age in his first
Let him
test.
up, let him up.
22 metres away from the Australian line. They lead by 2. Swain, good out of dummy half for Jones. Put down by Vangana. And the knock on against the Kiwis takes the pressure off
Back
the
up, give it some
Kangaroos.
work,
He's done a fair bit of this, Stacey Jones, in the opening moments of this game, turning the ball back inside, trying to get the Australian defence on the back foot on the next play, but that time Vangana couldn't hold on to it. Worked by the Australians too. They're getting up very, very quickly on these Kiwis, trying to cut down their thinking time.
Brent Tate. Vangana, one of those players, 5 weeks without a match. His last game for the Bulldogs in round 26. There's a few like him out there tonight. And Webke proving tough to handle that time. 30 metres away from his own goal line. El Masri from dummy half, but straight into the clutches of Kearney. Now a TT there at his side. Darris for Stevens. Very flat attacking line that time for the Australians. And now just outside their 40. No thought of kicking early as Tallis is backslammed by the Kiwi defence. And they go a touch delirious about that. Kamali's kick is well judged to the corner. Farfili appears to be moving a little better than he was 5 minutes or so ago. Torpy, leading try scorer with the Warriors. Tackled on the second, and a few of these New Zealand forwards still just strolling back to get inside the 20. That was the tackle on Gordon Tallis. As now New Zealand extend to the right, and Utah is away again. Well, he has slipped into Test football like he slipped into an old pair of slippers. He loves it. It's very comfortable here. Here is Jones. 25 away from the Australian line. Utah 3 touches, and every one has been very dangerous. Hahaya kicked from outside the 30 to the wing of El Masri. And no problems there for Hazem. And now looks to link up with Lockyer. He has done that successfully. And Lockyer gets those feet moving, then loses the ball. Picked up by Lomu. Lomu goes on the attack. 15 away from the line. Kearney out of dummy half. From the Melbourne Storm, back for Lauatiti. Only 5 from the line now. The crowd right behind the home team. Swain for Jones, then Wiki. It held in the tackle. Hill was low, Stevens high, and they slow down the play the ball. Wiki could barely get back to his feet. Jones gets through, delivers the pass, and the Australians come away with the ball with Kamali.
Oh, the pass was too good. It was too good for his own teammate. Marvellous effort there by Stacey Jones to get over the top of the defence and flick it back on the inside. See you screaming for the ball, just goes past his outstretched hand and ends up in the clutches of the Australian halfback, Brett Kamali.
Samala who fell awkwardly in that tackle. Webke goes for another run. He's engaged in full-on combat tonight with these New Zealand forwards. He's probably got just a little bit of ground to make up. Now Fitzgibbon is out there early for the Australians. Another on debut. Clive Churchill medal winner. Kamali kicks from the 40. He's got this one headed for the sideline. Violecki knows it and is able to cover up. Played a lot of his junior football at fullback, David Violecki. And able to stride through the Hill tackle. He's more than competent with the number 1 on his back. Utah rushes up, and the head went back even though he was hit round the chest by Kamali. And now Badera supplies the headlock. And they've managed to contain him for the first time in the game. Richard Swain. The inside pass, and again it crept up a little high. Mason is now out there. That was the tackle on Utah. Nothing wrong with it from Kamali. And they really did bulldog the ground. Now the Kiwis have turned it over. And the Australians with the ball just inside the New Zealand half. Fitzgibbon was the decoy runner. Not sure whether Hill was too keen to have it. Flat-footed, he's lost the ball, and now it's play on. Solomona gets them going down the left side.
Great tackle there from Hazem El Masri. He was outnumbered down that side there, but came in, took the odds to it. They're away this time.
And this is Farfili. The call is clear of play on from Harrigan. 30 metres away from the Australian line. Only the first tackle in this set. Great field position. Jones inside for Torpy. He is slammed sideways from Kennedy. 25 away. Jones for CUCU. And he is lifted in the tackle. It may have been an Australian hand in there. It's play on anyway for Stacey Jones. Takes on Lockyer. Beats Lockyer. How good is this little bloke? Stacey Jones, he's 5'0", but he stands tall at every big occasion, and he gets his team's second try.
Very reminiscent of the grand final last week against the Roosters. You've got to be very, very careful when these Kiwi forwards are prepared to throw the ball on the ground and Stacey Jones is in the area. Stacey Jones on to Siasiu, back inside. Jones waits. Crumbs come on the back. Mason flat-footed. Lockyer can't make the grab. And Stacey Jones, as he did last week against the Roosters, shows blinding pace, great evasion, and a very important try for the Kiwis, turning pressure into points.
Well, his coach, Gary Freeman, in this national side was a New Zealand halfback for a decade, played 46 test matches. Stacey Jones, at 26 years of age, has played 27. There's no reason why he can't match the record of Wiz Freeman. And now Swain with his third kick of the night, all from close range and all successful. And again, the margin is 8 points. It is 14-6. And we can just sit back and enjoy the efforts of Stacey Jones for the second time in a week.
Oh, he's a super player. No doubt early in this week he'd have had thoughts of regrets or disappointments about the grand final loss of the Warriors against the Roosters, but he steeled himself for his country. He's had a big hand in the opening 21 minutes of this game. And the Kiwis, with that 8-point lead again, and the wind in their sails.
Lockyer, early indications as a good tackle comes in from Kennedy, but the only blemish you can think of Darren Lockyer's career was a test against the Kiwis back in '98 over at North Harbour Stadium, I think the ground was, where he had a bad night with the hands, and this match hasn't opened all that well for the best number one in the game. New Zealand inside their 40 with Swain for Kearney, and rushes up straight into the clutches of Fitzgibbon. Missed tackle count is a little embarrassing for the Australians early. Here is Lockyer. And now what sort of attack will the New Zealanders put on him here? Hahaya gets him.
I guess for the Australians, you start looking at players who haven't played much football for a while, whether or not their timing is out. Defensively, there's been some grabs and misses. Chris Anderson's gone to the bench early. This man Mason's been injected, so too has Craig Fitzgibbon. And a few of the Australians standing around with hands on hips at the moment.
Deris for Webke, and he is met very solidly from Solomona. Kearney there as well, but they're giving Shane Webke no peace. Kennedy picked up again. They are leaving a mark. They are leaving them battered and bruised early. Kamali's kick to the wing of Henry Farfili, called in to the side within the last 24 hours, replacing Francis Melly. This tackle from Rahihi. It makes a statement in bold print that New Zealand will compete tonight. Solomona with it. And tackled 35 metres out. Just for the moment, the crowd a little silent. But the forward effort has been so good right from the first tackle. You keep going back to it. See you on Shane Webke. First hit up of the night. It was dynamic. Last tackle here for New Zealand. Jones gets a high ball, and now he's in trouble. Still able to pass and play on the call for Vangana. On the last, a little kick. He was taken down by Webke. I'm surprised Bill Harrigan didn't rule there.
Well, it's remarkable he didn't get a penalty there because he kicked it. He ran between two players, and there was no doubt they dragged him down.
Here's just a second. Vangana's with the ball, able to pass back inside, and Utai on the boo gets his first try. They may just check it with a video referee. No, Harrigan says 4 points, that'll move it. Third try of the night to New Zealand, and it comes again off an Australian error.
Yeah, well, the Australians will be wishing he did give them the penalty. They're saying they deserved it. But poor ball control has presented the Kiwis with an opportunity. And the Bulldog pair, Vangana and Utai, down the right-hand side of the field. Here's Vangana. He kicks through. There's no doubt that Fitzgibbon and Webke take him out. That should have been a penalty. And the Australians probably stopped expecting it to be a penalty. From the play the ball, Tate gets out from dummy half. The ball is actually knocked down by Kearney. Had we gone to a video referee, that may have seen a knock on. And the Bulldog pair finish it off beautifully. Vangana, the big right hand around the corner. fancied himself to get around the outside here and score. Tahu came across, couldn't stop the football. Beautifully played. A little one-arm grab there from Utai too. Gee, they're skillful players, these pair.
The bench like it. And Utai, who scored 13 tries in his 21 games debut season for the Bulldogs. We saw him make his debut round 4 against South Sydney. The night Nigel Vunganar got the 5 tries, and we thought he looks a likely customer. Well, he played every first-grade game from that night on. Swain has his 4th kick of the night. This his toughest. 5 in from touch. 22 metres out. From behind Richard Swain, it is well wide all the way. We will pause with the Kiwis in control by 12. Richard Swain, I bet, wasn't expecting so many kicks in the first quarter or so of this match. He's had 4. His team in front by 12.
Stay behind, Scotty Hill, stay back.
18 points to 6. Test football on the Wide World of Sports. The completion of our rugby league commitments for the year as New Zealand with Kearney makes the error in goal. He was a little unsure about it. Harrigan wasn't. This will be a line dropout, and that's a momentum stopper if ever there was one.
I think most people in the ground missed this one because he was standing right behind the goalpost, and I'm sure he was balked by the crossbar. Goes straight between his hands, off his ankles, and he's claiming he didn't touch it with his hands. But Bill Harrigan quite rightly has ruled the knock-on in goal, which now means a goal line dropout. An opportunity for the Australians to get some field position and perhaps hit back.
They did so after the first try, but now they're down by 12. Willie Mason, left thigh, a bandage on it.
That's one, that's
New
one.
Zealand-born
Now,
Willie
Steve.
Mason.
Mark a lock in straight.
And this
Two,
Kangaroo
lock in
side,
straight.
Jason Stevens now bumps his way forward
2, stand all
and
the
gets
way
it
up,
to the
Jason,
20.
when you play it.
3 defenders to get the Sharks propped out. Now Baderis for Kamali and then Hill on for Fitzgibbon. And Fitzgibbon headed towards that sideline, able to go to ground. And Tate at dummy half for Scott Hill, and he also has some trouble with his footing. It has been the way for the Australians. It just hasn't been their night so far. Kamali for Barrett, and then across for Kennedy. Here's the numbers, and over they will go again with Gidley. Well, that has unfolded a little too easy for this level of football. So the Kangaroos visit the 20-metre zone for only the second occasion, and again they get a try. 18-10.
Yeah, we saw this the last time they were down there. The Kiwis are using a very submissive and sliding defensive line, even when on their own goalpost. Now this play comes from one side of the field, 2 long passes there past the post, and all of a sudden we've got a heap of numbers out here on the right-hand side. That's Farfuli, who hasn't gone more than 2 yards off his try line, even though the play was in the far corner. They should have been up cutting it off when Barrett got the ball. You give this side space, room to move, they will carve you up, and Gidley slid in there very, very low, making sure he wasn't bundled into touch. And the Australians, if they keep seeing that sort of defensive line down in the opposition quarter, will rack up points. It'll just become a game of field position for them.
Well, what sort of scoreline are we projecting for the end of 80 minutes if this keeps up? Now 18-10. And a regroup for the Kiwis in goal.
It was very evident last time the Australians came down that the Kiwis prepared to sit back on their try line, allow the Australians to move the ball wide and hopefully round them up near the corners. That ball was played 10 yards in from touch on the left-hand side of the field, and by the time it got to the far corner, the Kiwis left winger had only come a yard off his own line. They've got to get up and put more pressure on the Australians than that. They've got to cut down their thinking time. They can't afford to give these players width and time to play it. Kamali and Barrett will just carve them up.
There was a slightly bemused Hazem El Masri after his goal-kicking practice at this ground just a few days ago. He found it very hard to judge the breeze. There's a number of passageways around the ground that let in currents of air, but in Hazem's words, one moment it was going left to right, and the next moment it was right to left. And he's got this one right from the touchline. 21 out to get it back, but unsuccessful. And out to the right, Hazem El Masri. And that margin for the third time in the match is 8 points, 18 points to 10.
Must be difficult for the Australian coach Chris Anderson with so many changes to his lineup. You know, it's 15 months since these two teams last played. Virtually in July 13 last year, Australia won that game 28 to 10. But there's only 6 survivors in the Australian side 15 months later. The likes of Lottie Takiri, Ryan Girdler, Wendell Saylor, Andrew Johns, Brian Fletcher, Brad Myers, Brad Fittler, Adam McDougall, Robbie Kearns, Dane Carlisle, Petro Civoniceva are all missing.
And New Zealand conceding a penalty here, and Bill Harrigan, he caught David Solomona in front of the kicker, and I wouldn't be surprised if Solomona is the only one. Well, certainly he was the furthest, and he stands out with a black and white headgear. And in the meantime, the Australians taking the tap centre of halfway. And this is a nice roll-on to have. You don't give these sort of opportunities to class sides. And New Zealand may pay a price for this. Kamali in for Stevens. And met front on by Swain, top tackler in the NRL. I'm surprised to see a count of 30 or 40 by the end of this match. Barrett, good inside pass. Tate on the spin. Held low there by Kearney. A tackle that had to be made 20 metres out. And now the Kiwis start to look just a little brittle. They have looked great with the ball in their hands, but they are under pressure here. Kamali rifles that pass for Lockyer, and he loses it. And New Zealand have possession 5 metres out from their line, and they really needed that.
Yeah, it's been a strong start by the Kiwis, and I would dare say an emotional one, but you can tell 9 minutes out from the half-time break, they are starting to walk. Despite being leaders on the scoreboard, they are struggling fitness-wise. If the Australians can get some possession now, we're going to have a high-scoring first half and not much in the game.
Outside the 20, and the crowd not happy with Stevens hanging on to Lomu in the tackle. This is Rahihi, able to pass back to Jones. Plenty of offloads from New Zealand in this match. It has been one of the highlights. As Kearney has held up this time in a quick play the ball for Solomona, and back for Jones to kick from inside the 40. And Lockyer gets moving quickly, able to take it on the full and get back up over his own 40-metre zone. El Masri is contemplating a little run, decides to pass. It is with Gidley. 2 tries already in this test. A crossfield now straightens. Hahaya has the tackle with Guttenbeil, who is out there. Another one of those players on debut here. Willie Mason. The hair hasn't stopped growing over the last 5 weeks since we saw him last. That pass was marginal for Stevens. Then back for Craig Wing, who is out there getting his first taste of Test football. 8 minutes before half-time. Hill for Kamali. Across with Barrett. Pass was touched by Tallis. And New Zealand will have a scrum feed outside their 20. That was better defence. At least they put a bit of pressure on.
Yeah, too flat there, the Australians. Trent Barrett needs more time with that than the football, rather than the flat offensive style that Kamali likes to play. Tallis didn't have any time. The ball went forward anyway. And the let off there for the Kiwis.
Come up, hold.
Craig Wing on for Denny Medeiros. So Steve Menzies, the only one of the interchange players not to be used so far in this first half.
Back it up.
And the Kiwis likewise, only one still on the bench. That is Motu Tony. There's now Utai, another purposeful hit up, but he's lost it at the finish. In the tackle there of Fitzgibbon and Mason.
Just what the Australians wanted here, a little bit of possession at the right end of the field. They've got to control it. I've got no doubt they'll come up with points if they can. Fitzgibbon there had a bit of a strip on that ball, then screams out and points to the referee. He's dropped it. Good opportunity here. Scrum win about 32 metres out.
And Barrett with a bit of space. Passes for Lockyer. Then on for Gidley. Taking on Hahaya, but the teenager able to make the tackle. And tidy play the ball from Gidley. El Masri across field. Wrong foot see you. Got straight past Solomona.
Here we are.
And is now inside the 20.
Come on.
We could be looking at an 18-16 scoreline shortly. Kamali passes with Hill. That may have been forward to Tallis. Then back to Mason. No one will stop him from there. If only he forced the football.
Grounding, mate.
He may have beaten himself, Willie Mason.
I got no problem with the pass. You're looking at the ground.
Bill Harrigan saying, I've got no problem with the pass, just with the put down. Gordon Tallis, who dropped a pass on the right-hand side of the field. Has now placed himself out on his more favoured left side as Mason. There's no problem with that. He's got that down, no doubt in the world. Yep, right on the line. And good play there by the Australians. Beautiful ball from Scott Hill. Looked a fraction forward, but Gordon Tallis hit it at pace. Here's Mason, arm outstretched, right on the line. CSU too late with the challenge. We'll get the green light here, no doubt. I don't know what he's looking for.
In fact, if Jerry CUCU was successful with kicking it out of Willie Mason's hand, we may well have had a penalty try. I mean, that's the same as a strip. He was held low, and CUCU decided to attack with a boot. It is a try, and it is 18-14. And El Masri will kick from 20 out and 20 in from touch for a 2-point ball game.
This is the difference in players like Scott Hill and Trent Barrett. Trent Barrett needs a little bit more time with the football. Scott Hill, very adept at playing with the likes of Brett Camorley to get quick hands away. See, Scott Hill catches right on the line, able to unload straight away, right onto the chest of Gordon Tallis, who then gets the right hand free. How are you going to stop Big Willie that close to the line when he's got up a head of steam? Good ball there from Tallis. Makes it available to this fella. There was only one way to go here, straight ahead. Get out of my way. Violecki couldn't stop him. CSU couldn't get there in time. It's Scott Hill there. Very, very quick hands. We saw on the other side of the field when Trent Barrett was put under pressure. He and Tallis couldn't combine properly. The ball was put to ground. Scott Hill, more adept at playing with Brett Camorley. Had a few years with him at the Storm. Quicker hands. Able to get the ball into Tallis's chest.
That's what we said. The Bulldogs are having a good night out. The 5 involved in this match have all got some good moments to look back on. Utai Vangana Rahihi in this New Zealand side. And now Mason and El Masri in the Kangaroos. This will frustrate the fans in Wellington, the time that Haslam takes with his kicks, but it's the same week in, week out, kick after kick in the NRL. And it is impossible to criticise the leading point scorer from the competition. It is just his style. New to the venue, taking all care. El Masri drills it low, this one from Haslam. We have had 34.5 minutes, and we've had 34 points.
And danger signs here for the Kiwi coach, Gary Freeman. You couldn't get off to a better start than that in a test match. Leading 18 points to 6, and all of a sudden it's 18-16 on the stroke of half time, and this first half isn't over yet.
One of the great images of the season, seeing Willie Mason running and that head of his. There's Stevens, another hit up. Kearney and CUCU and Lauatiti, 3 of the Kiwis pack, picking him up and driving back for 5. So they're a little stung by conceding their 3rd try of the night. For all their hard work early, it would be soul-destroying to go into half-time behind on the board.
Hands out, Steve Kearney, get your hands away.
Fitzgibbon up and beyond that 40-metre line. They are good metres.
Shut up, Willie.
Willie Mason got a cry from Bill Harrigan there to shut up. Something he was saying in the line. He was basically in no man's land in the attacking line there, Willie. And then Craig Wing for Camorley, able to try that short kick. Violecki won't get to it. Hohaya will, though. Saves a dangerous situation.
Yeah, well read there by Hohaya. It was going to be a problem for Violecki coming up from the back. He got back deep for the 5th tackle kick. Camorley ran the ball, put a little one in behind, and Hohaya came from the right-hand side to intercept it. Would have been a difficult one for this to take head on for the fullback. Good work there by the 5'8".
Back to William, hold here, hold.
Kiwis on their 40, CUCU. Just a little down on Petrel as he gets up to half-time. Swain is away. He has support on his outside. It is Torpy, and it should be shut the gate. Clinton Torpy scores off a dummy half exploration, if you like, from Richard Swain. A try out of nothing. And New Zealand, when they look to be struggling, have hit back with great force.
Richard Swain, just one of his standard investigations. Every now and then he'll jump out from dummy half and say, "You're still watching me? Are you still watching me? No, you're not. Here we go." And this man has become a try-scoring machine in the NRL, can finish them off, looms up in support on the outside, shows too much pace. Richard Swain, watch me. If you don't watch me, I'm gone. Jumps out every now and then and says, "You're watching." Torpy, great pace. Sprints around to put it into the in goal. And that's a great try for the Kiwis right on the stroke of half-time. They were wobbling a little bit. The scoreboard had got back very, very close. Now a 6-point lead, chance to make it 8. Gives them a little bit of breathing space, and they'll have a bit of momentum going into the half-time. Gary Freeman will appreciate that because they were looking a little ragged.
Torby getting his first try in Test match football tonight. And Richard Swain, one of those players who hadn't played for 5 weeks, finishing his duties with the Melbourne Storm, and he will be expected to play 80 minutes tonight. And he's got a tour of Great Britain and France to come. From Tamworth, Richard Swain. This kick from 23 metres out. It's a tired-looking kick, but it is there. It just dropped over the crossbar. He is having a wonderful night, a stellar night for the number 9 for New Zealand.
How did the Melbourne Storm let a player like this go? A man who plays 80 minutes every week, never misses a game, plays for his country. He can kick goals, he can set up tries, he can score tries. And they say, "We don't want you."
A 24-16 scoreline for the 4th time tonight. The margin is 8. There's Lomu, who has made a good debut. He has run hard, no errors from Andrew Lomu. And Lauatiti, not forgetting that New Zealand, we mentioned Andrew Johns, who would have been the captain of this Australian side tonight. That back problem for Andrew, but Nathan Kalis, the New Zealand captain, also missing tonight's test. And facing knee surgery not too far down the track as Jones kicks. This is a good set to follow the try. It's deep, a big bounce from Stacey Jones. He wants it to pull up. He is in charge at this place, don't worry about that. And El Masri does extremely well to get back to the field of play. He burrowed as low as humanly possible. And now they rush up on Gidley. The Australians with it, 5 out from their own line. This was the play of El Masri. Kiwis would have been looking for a line dropout from the Kangaroos. Half-time siren has sounded. Brent Tate will take the last charge of the first half. And what a first half it has been. 40 minutes of some wonderful attacking football, some ferocious forward clashes. The Keno Test, 7 tries in the first 40 minutes, and a very appreciative crowd of the efforts of both teams. So we will break a 24-16 scoreline.
Well, if the Aussies thought they'd walk into Wellington and take away these Kangaroo international points, they're rudely mistaken. The Kiwis, they're right up for this one, and right from the outset, they were on fire. They've dominated the first half. They go to the break, leading 4 tries to 3, 24 points to 16.
Wednesday, live on Sky Sports, a night of European Championship qualifiers. England and Ireland on the road to Portugal 2004. On Sky Sports 2, follow England as they take on Macedonia. And go Smith! While big rivals Turkey face Liechtenstein. Over on Sky Sports 1, Mick McCarthy's Ireland are at home against the Swiss. See the England and Ireland games in the first half of Turkey-Liechtenstein all live, Wednesday from 6, Sky Sports.
Get used to a better view.
I got the rubber. Look at me, I got the service.
The tall car for the tough streets.
Yeah.
The extraordinary new Ford Fusion. It's out there.
She avoids talking to him, and he doesn't like talking to her. She doesn't want to speak to him, and he doesn't like talking to him.
Don't avoid talking to businesses on other networks. T-Mobile, everyone 1,000 free minutes. Talk to any business, any network, anytime. T-Mobile. Get more.
Could Dad play for United?
I doubt it. Their players are worth millions and millions. Go on, son.
Standard Life savings and investments perform consistently well, so you could be worth more than you think.
So how much is that worth?
Based on that performance?
Not a lot.
Come on, boy.
Standard Life for pensions, investments, healthcare and banking.
Confirmation of the halftime score in this one-off test match between the Kiwis and the Kangaroos. It's 4 tries to 3 in favour of the home side. They lead 24 points to 16. Well, many thought the Aussies were favourites for this one, but you consider that they're at Wellington. They've got the home crowd behind them, the Kiwis, and they started just so well. You'd have to think that they are probably favourites to go on and win this one. Have you been impressed with the start?
Well, they started that like that last time, didn't they? They got it again. We were right. The emotion was with the Kiwis. What you saw from the Australians was patience, no panic. And they fought their way back in. And you see here Richard Swain exposing a major flaw that's been exhibited twice, which is the space between the markers and the first defenders. And he just gets out there, has a bo peep. He's scored Jason Stevens twice for tries.
He's had a fantastic first half as Richard Swain. If it was going to turn around, you'd look to someone to Trent Barrett to do that. Fine ball there for Gibbon.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Gould picked it up. Knowing one another's play is the key. The Aussies, as he also mentioned in the running commentary, a different side, but Gidley's come a long way out of his normal position at right centre to trial a player. That just means he knows his play, knows where to sniff out the try.
How impressive have you been with Stacey Jones so far in the first half? He really has stamped his mark on the game.
Yeah, well, another trademark try. I've been more impressed with Jerry CC and Richard Swain, but Stacey's behind. Good go forward, unlike Brett Kamali.
It's been a trademark of their game. Loose ball out the back, and they're always there to clean it up, aren't they?
There's that man CSU again. It was his offload that time. The ball on the deck is a dangerous position, more so with these fellas with their skill.
Again, we talk about Swain, again involved. Just when you thought they were tiring, out he pops, and Torpy flies down to wrap up the first half.
Yeah, it's one of the great things. I think he's been well in front of Badeiras in his movement from dummy half and investigating the spaces around the ruck. And they'll need to be conscious of that. But the Aussies won't panic. They don't panic. They understand the method. And there was a section in that game where they came back. But what surprised me is their poor defence, their missed tackle rate, their inability to lock up the football, and their ability not to dominate in defence. The physical nature of the game is being won by the New Zealanders at the moment. They went a bit flat. The Aussies came into it a little bit based on field position. 2 penalties from Bill Harrigan gave them one, and a kick-off that Kearney dropped gave them the other field position. It's been comfortable for them when they've had field position, but the basics have been done better by the New Zealanders at the moment.
What's the one noticeable difference to this Australian team than the one that belted Great Britain back in July 12 when you went down there?
Maybe the emotion of the two sides, but I think Jason Riles is a big loss and Andrew Johns is a big loss in situations where a team is emotionally high and got a roll on. You've got to be able to absorb that pressure and then go back to doing what you're good at.
Would you agree that the Aussies haven't been able to get that go forward that they did when they played Great Britain?
Yeah, I agree totally with you, Chris. Webke does his normal trademark stuff. A lot of work needs to be done by Jason Stevens, Willie Mason and Gordon Tallis. And we've seen fantastic pictures of being slammed on their back. And the little blokes from dummy half, Brent Tate's got out, had the ball knocked out. Hazemel Masri's got out, but been driven backwards. And they're not going forward at the beginning of their sets in the key area of the field, which is the back of the field. So any error is going to give the New Zealand that field position. The Aussies can absorb it, but this year the New Zealanders have turned into points.
Looking at the back end of the game, we've got 40 minutes still to come. You'd have to say that New Zealand, in terms of match fitness, they've got 8 guys backing up from the grand final. So do you think they will have weary legs, or will it count in their favour?
I think they'll ride through the 80 minutes on the high that's New Zealand Rugby League at the moment. Very strange for me for Chris Anderson to go in with only 3 props. He must be going to use Gordon Tallis there. And they need some grunt, they need some power up front to get back in the game to allow them to kick early. It'll be interesting to see how they come out.
Well, we've still got 40 minutes to go. Can the Aussies get themselves out of this one? But what we're all looking forward to here on the domestic front in Super League, of course, it is the Tetley Super League 7 Grand Final. And we can now confirm that St Helens will travel to the Theatre of Dreams to meet Bradford Bulls. All the action, October 19. That's next Saturday, 6 p.m, live right here on Sky Sports. Rugby league fans, I'm sure, wetting their lips for that one. That will be a fantastic battle. And the second half of this one, I'm sure, will have plenty of spice as well. Can they walk away with this one in front of their big crowd at Wellington, the Kiwis, or can the Aussies resurrect this second half and come away with the points?
You want some, fly boy?
Well, I was looking for something crispy, actually.
I am all crispy and I'm creamy inside. I've got chocolate. Oh. You can lick my nipples. Bite me, bite me, bite me, bite me, bite me, bite me. Bueno soft and creamy, bueno crispy and light. I'll be whatever you want me to be.
Ever wondered what the most commonly used word in the world is? Okay. Man's favorite word is one that means all right, satisfactory, not bad. So why invent the light bulb when candles are okay? Earth's okay, why go to the moon? Clearly not everybody believes okay is okay. We don't. And we were wondering, what would the world be like if its favorite word wasn't okay? What if we could change it? What if the word was, what if?
Canada's great outdoors isn't the only place to experience Canadian wildlife. See just how far your money will go. Call 0800-032-7032 for your free Canadian City Holiday Guide. And a great city getaway brochure courtesy of Connections Worldwide, featuring packages starting at £535 per person. Get there with Air Canada, with more flights to more places in Canada than any other airline, with a natural choice. Canada. Discover our true nature.
The Saturday premiere.
We found one of your girls murdered last night.
Criminals with a camera.
This is a great film.
Make killer television.
If it bleeds, it leads.
The ratings are rising, but so is the body count.
Dream on.
Robert De Niro, Edward Burns, Kelsey Grammer. Some people will go to any lengths.
Action.
For their 15 minutes. Tonight at 10, Sky Movies premiere.
A big night of international football on Wednesday. First up on Sky Sports 2, England's main group rivals Turkey at home to Liechtenstein. The first half is live and exclusive, followed immediately by England against Macedonia. Only Sky Sports brings you both key games. Coverage starts at 6. At 7 on Sky Sports 1, another Euro qualifier exclusively live, the Republic of Ireland against Switzerland. Right now you're watching live International Rugby League, confirmation of the halftime score and a bit of a surprise scoreline. The home side, the Kiwis, 24 at the moment, lead the Aussies 16. And there they go, the Aussies back out onto the field. They've got some work to do in the second half. David, do you think they can come back into it?
I do. I think the key is the start to the second half. I noticed that Craig Wing's still there. I thought a couple of his movements out of dummy half tried to balance up what Richard Swain was doing. I don't know how well Danny Badiris is, but Richard Swain's played him off the park at the moment. The start is the key. We know that the Australians will be patient, and we'll know that they can plan to come home. The key area is improve their defence.
I was just going to say that man there, Stacey Jones, he's just come off screen there, but he's been phenomenal. Of course, he got one up over Comorley a couple of weeks ago when the Warriors defeated the Sharks and sent their season packing, and he really has stamped his name all over this game. Standing by young Brent Tate there in the centres, started in Chris Anderson's Kiwi side. A lot of pressure on the youngsters, and one would expect Gordon Tallis to really step up to the plate in this second half if the Aussies can win it.
He's supposed to be the leader, and we saw what good leaders do in the grand final last week when Freddie said, well, follow me.
All right, we'll rejoin all the action there. Bill Harrigan's call time on. Your commentators, Phil Gould and Andrew Voss.
24-16 scoreline, and New Zealand with first possession for the second half.
On this line and hold.
And they started the opening 40 in devastating style. As Lomu slips a pass out the back for Jones, and Kearney is with it. Many strong contributors in that first half. Kearney was very good. Now Guttenbill with it for the Kiwis.
3. Let him up.
Wins for New Zealand over the years are rare. The head-to-head stats show that Australia are way ahead in the battles between the two nations. New Zealand a promising start to the second half, and then the ball put down, and Violecki comes up with it. Well, Violecki will say that the pass was thrown backwards and bounced forwards, which would be play on, but not the way Bill Harrigan saw it.
Yeah, unless we saw a little hand in here on the replay, but I didn't think there was a knock on. Violecki was convinced that he was off for the prize. Stacey Jones, every time they flop the ball back to him, he looks dangerous. The Australians were caught flat-footed again.
Put that big melon in. Heads down.
Scrum just inside the Kangaroos half, and Kamali for Barrett. And away for Matt Gidley. Hahaya, well, that is an unusual looking tackle. Torpy in it as well. And then New Zealand come up with a mistake in turn, Lauatiti. They had advantage.
Advantage played. He ran all
and
that
it will
way.
be an Australian scrum feed. That is very disappointing from Ali Lauatiti.
Yeah, he's disappointed in himself. Although when you're 118 kilos and 6'4", you probably don't think you're going to be pushed out into touch. Gidley very strongly tackled there. Lauatiti picks it up. He thought he could get Farfuli away. He was just hassling with a smaller Trent Barrett back on the inside, who kept hustling him towards the sideline. He was pushed into touch.
That'll do him now. That's one. Have a look for me.
Back in possession. They missed many tackles in the opening 20 minutes of that first half. They were beaten in the offload count.
Quick, Steve. Roll away.
Craig Wing remains out there. Both hookers in this match with wrist injuries, Wing and Badiris. And Wing now 40 metres out. And a gallop for him for Kamali. Passes away for Tallis. Tallis spots a little bit of space, and Stacey Jones does well. The two captains 20 metres away from the Kiwi line, with Barrett running at Swain. He was clipped high there by CU on the way down. Fifth tackle, Kamali prepared to run. Hill brings the centre into play. Tate, the ball has gone forward a good 2 or 3 metres.
And a little bit of bulldog defence there. Was able to force a turnover by the Australians in a forward pass. Unlike the defence on their left-hand side of the field, with a couple of warriors, the Bulldogs on the other side were prepared to come up and get in their face. And Vangana and Utai forced the error there from the Australians, who ran it on tackle 5.
This line.
And Utai, such a good first half on debut, scored a try. That's some good efforts in general play. The pass of Tate, just the pressure put on by the New Zealand defence on a last tackle play, and it all mounted up on Brent Tate.
3. Let him up.
Now Swain will play it, 25 away from his team's line. Arwen Guttenbill.
4. Come on, Gordon. Come on.
One of 5 New Zealand players on debut. Stacey Jones thought about kicking. Could have got one away from inside the 40. Now he runs into trouble in the shape of Willie Mason. Now Guttenbill's passes forward. It was fielded by Nigel Vangana, and this time it will be a scrum feed to the Australian team in good field position. Wonderful opportunity to attack here.
I think Peter Sterling said it last week in preparation for the grand final, that the flamboyance of these players is their greatest asset, but can also be their undoing. And that time they're failing to go forward, control the ball, flicking it out the back when the pass wasn't on, presenting an opportunity to the Kangaroos.
And it is with Barrett bringing Tate in and almost through. That is a big tackle from Vangana on Brent Tate. Lockyer looking to make up for 1 or 2 blemishes in that first half. Wing 11 metres away. The hit up from Stevens. He is 5 away and lost the ball. CU may have passed forward. They're allowed to continue with Kearney, the one-handed carry, back over the 20-metre line. Now the ball comes away with Farfuli. And Henry is back to the 30-metre line. Swain and Lomu.
3. Yeah, come back to me, Willie.
The error from Stevens as he was looking to pass, and may have pinged CU as well. Now a 40-20 attempted. Not enough juice on the kick. Lockyer with it on his own 20. And taken the ground by Torpy. Now Masri with Gidley. They're going to stretch this ball wide. Tahu hasn't had many chances in this game and held up there. 15 inside his own half. Craig Wing and Stevens quickly along. Forfeits Gibbon.
Come on, fellas, make it.
These bench players getting plenty of time while Steve Menzies still waits for his opportunity. This is Stevens. Held right on halfway. Jones, or rather Swain, had hold of the legs. For Kamali. And then for Mason, just dumps that pass off for Tallis, who tries to weave a passage through. Got away from Lomu. And they're able to offload to Craig Wing. Only 32 metres from the New Zealand line. And this time it is Hill attacking the left side. Tahu, great skills with a chip. And then Tahu with a regather. Scintillating league from the boy from Newcastle. Tahu scores for the Kangaroos. And that was all class.
Yeah, well, sometimes words just don't do a player justice, and I doubt that I can come up with the words to describe this bit of individual brilliance by Tamana Tahu. Scott Hill runs the ball on tackle 5. Good long pass, over the top, regather, beat the fullback, round the outside, little room to move, and just coast towards the post, puts the ball down. A great individual effort. Good work by Scott Hill. Had the vision to realise he was in space, but from a standing start, kick over the top, regather, beat the fullback. Oh, that's class. That really is class football.
And has scored tries in all levels of football this year. 21 tries in 21 games for the Knights. He scored in City Country. He scored in Origin. He scored on his Test debut, and he scores again tonight.
And I will say, Andrew, it's a very different looking Australian team that has come out for the second half. Down 24-16 at half time. Great pride in their jersey, great pride in their record. Despite the fact the Kiwis got off to a blistering start, this kick at goal should bring the Australians within 2. Still 32 minutes on the clock, and I get the feeling it's going to be a long 32 minutes for the Kiwis.
First kick of the night for Hazem El Masri. He again drives it low and successful. So the Australians creep back to within 2 in Nines Test football. Saturday night from Wellington. 4 tries all. And a look again, he was working such a narrow channel too here, Tamana Tahu. Wonderful balance there. From Westpac Trust Stadium. 24 points to 22. And we're only 8 minutes into the second half. A match that the Kiwis at one stage led by 18 points to 6. Kearney is retired to the bench. New Zealand is really working through the interchange. Australians on their 30. Craig Wing on the ice rink again. Doesn't seem to have been a problem for the New Zealanders. But a number of the Australians have lost their footing. Kamali's kick low from inside the 40. It's sort of checked on the first bounce, and that allows Violecki to make a decision, then run with the ball, and then go backwards and contained on the 20. Good chase from Craig Fitzgibbon. This time with Fafili for 10 metres. Nice ground as his forwards get back on side. Swain for Wiki. Coming off the back of a truly wonderful year for the Raiders. He was the Canberra Player of the Year. Swain, more metres to his tally in this match, over halfway. Jones, they work left. And Rahihi is back on and attracting a few defenders there. He has been good for them. Swain down this short side with Torpy. His pass for Feely. Well, he was in the process, I think, of about to come back in field. It ended up a very meek attempt at catching the ball. And Australia back with it.
Now, I'm sure he wanted Farfuli to come back on the inside there. The Kiwis were stretched out to the right. Swain decided to come back down the short side. Really didn't have the numbers to work with. Got themselves in a bit of a muddle and turned the ball over.
2 points the difference as Mason looks to charge up over halfway. Not quite getting the crowd support he had on debut back at Aussie Stadium mid-year. But he is still one of the personalities of our game. Now Kamali's got them in 2 minds. Back for Barrett. Perhaps a sign the New Zealand defence. They are standing and waiting in this set. Wing tries to take advantage. It was put down by Hill. And it will be a New Zealand scrum feed. 15 inside their own half, but the Australians were starting to build some pressure there on New Zealand.
Look much better, the Aussies, since the break. Playing the ball a lot quicker. I've got to say I'm very impressed with Gordon Tallis' start to this second half. He finished off the first half very, very well, steaming onto a ball to give Willie Mason a try. And both in attack and defence in the early part of this second half, he's leading from the front.
So far, it's been a real shot in arm for international, for Test football. This contest tonight, we were all a bit down in the dumps after the Great Britain Test earlier this year. But this is a real battle as Solomona is ready to come back on. On halfway, Swain. Stacey Jones, cutout ball, finds Guttenbeil. And Guttenbeil is 5 inside the Kangaroos' territory. Swain had to put a little spurt of speed on to get to dummy half. Ohio had to rush a kick. It all looked messy, but they get a penalty out of it. A little bit fortunate there, New Zealand.
Yeah, rebound here. Came off to Tahu to a player in front of him. Really wasn't a planned kick. Ohio was under pressure from the moment he got the ball from Brent Tate. Gets a kick in. Bounces off Fitzgibbon into the hands of Tahu. Really had no choice. If he hadn't have taken it, Vungana would have. And they concede the penalty. And a chance for the Kiwis to hit back.
They lead by 2. Swain, long pass, Ohio. And Violecki into the line, wraps around. That was pressure from the Australian defence. And that is most disappointing for the Kiwis on tackle number 1. And now a lost ball in that tackle. And he is going to rule a scrum, Bill Harrigan.
Oh.
He says no hand in there, Gus.
I didn't see it. No, I got a good call. I didn't see it. He's the one who called it. Lost it.
Well, that's a big call.
I didn't see it, but I got a call. He saw it.
The Kiwis can't beat Australia if they keep turning the ball over on the first tackle, as they have done 3 times in this second half already. But a let off here. You can see Ruben Whippy there, gets his hand in and pulls the ball out. Should have been a penalty.
Bill Harrigan made it quite clear it was the call of the touch judge. And now New Zealand have lost the ball, and this time he will rule a knock-on against the Kiwis. This game was broken down in the last minutes.
I think they call this tit for tat. I've got no doubt that the Australian give this a little nudge to help it go down. Bill has a smile, says, well, I'm off the hook. It'll be won both ways here. Trent Barrett gets up, knocks the ball out of his hand. Tit for tat.
Listen, the inside leg has got to be back.
Scrum is
and
40 metres away from the Australian line. Bill seems to be having a very good night of it all. The shots we've shown you via the Sky New Zealand cameras of a big smile on the face of the game's number 1 referee.
We are 1.
The Kangaroos on their 40. Webke out there, and he pulled up there, and that hit up, and he cops the treatment as a result. That was most unlike Shane Webke, I thought. And now a crossfield, Kamali gets through. Great pass. Lockyer at speed. Will take on Violecki. Away for Tahu. For the corner. He's held up by Stacey Jones and David Violecki. Right on the goal line. Here come the Kangaroos. They haven't been in front at all in the match. Hill slips it out the back. Tallis will be hard to stop. He is only 3 away from the line. And he has lost it there, Gordon Tallis. And the crowd have let out their biggest cheer of the night. The angst of the one Australian supporter here is shown for all to see.
Well, if Gordon Tallis doesn't make a half break here, I'm sure Bill Harrigan awards a penalty for the Kiwis being inside the 10. But having ruled play on, Tallis then spills it in to play the ball, and they've lost both advantages. Beautiful play by Kamali, got Lockyer away. Tahu, great work here by the Kiwis, Stacey Jones, to keep him out. From the next play, Tallis was dangerous. Here he is fighting to get up. Now he loses the ball cold. Well, they should have got a penalty because they're all offside, the Kiwis.
Got your own Blake, mate. Got your own Blake.
So the game's swinging wildly at the moment on mistakes from the 2 teams. Solomona. Well, they handle David there like no team has done all year. Then a terrible play the ball, but he gets a penalty. He was facing the sideline, David Solomona, in a rush to come up with a play the ball. And now we've got them back chatting, and Bill marches the Aussies 10.
Well, I reckon the man playing the ball has got about 8 obligations under the rules. in what he has to do to play the ball correctly. I reckon David Solomona has broken 7 of them, but still got the penalty.
Yep.
And frustration creeps into the Australians, who have something to say to the referee, and that costs them a little more territory.
That's one. He strong hit up from the free kick. Gidley went low on the tackle. And now Jones away for Wiki. 2. And there's plenty of spirit in the 32 Test veteran. Steve Menzies warming up. First time tonight. And now is Stacey Jones. Another offload from the Kiwi forwards. Violecki. 38 metres away from the Australian line. New Zealand up by 2. We had a 40-point first half. And just the one try since the break. This is 25 from the line. Webke was slow to move away from Guttenbill that time. Jones with Ohio. His kick should be covered up by Lockyer. In fact, he got a very friendly bounce. And now Tahu gets a chance to show some of his magic again. Tallis will be the player replaced, giving Menzies his chance out there. So the captain is off. And this is Brent Tate running into Rahihi and Swain and Solomona. He'll put any number of holds onto him.
That was a dominant tackle.
And now Craig Wing, Menzies quickly to get his first touch. Alongside a couple of newcomers on the bench at the start of the night, and Willie Mason, who only had 1 test under his belt. Steve Menzies, a bit of a veteran of representative football.
Get off!
Last tackle with Jason Stevens now. Craig Wing getting a lot of game time. Hill, flat ball, begging for a Vunganar intercept. Next best thing was the ball and all tackle and a changeover.
Yeah, a bit of bulldog defence there again from Vunganar. Came up, cut off the option. Got us once on the 5th tackle down the short side. Weren't going to get us again. And the Kiwis get the ball back in good field position.
Great feeling in these tackles right at the moment. Solomona, you can see in the background top of picture, getting some treatment for an arm injury. And New Zealand with the ball, but they've lost their way a little here. This was the tackle on Ohio. I was saying feeling. It was a swinging arm over the top. Oh, the young 5'8", don't forget, he's only 19 years of age. First year of grade football. Now he's in the test arena. Stacey Jones, cut out for Solomona. They have done a terrific job to prevent the offload from David Solomona tonight. Richard Swain, 30 away from the Australian line. Short pass that time from Jones for Wiki. And that is the 5th tackle. 25 out. 2 points is the margin. Swain will kick. And Tahu will have no troubles again. Last tackle kicks from the Kiwis have let them down the last 2 sets.
One now, let him up. Quickly.
Well, the only thing I'm disappointed about this game is that it's going too quickly. I could watch this all night. It's a super game of football. I look up at the scoreboard. There's only 21.5 minutes left. Stop the clock. Just let us watch it.
And now troubles too with Stacey Jones. In fact, big troubles. Left shoulder for the New Zealand captain. He's retreating out to the centres as Jason Stevens takes another hit up, running headlong into Solomona. But Stacey Jones is in big strife at the moment as Kamali drives deep. Violecki pulls it in with one arm. Now heads across field looking to get away from the kicker. Fends him off. Then looks to stand up Barrett. But Menzies was there to make the tackle. Stacey Jones trying to work that left arm.
And a lot of Kiwi forwards with their hands on their hips walking back. Still 3 or 4 of them not onside. We're up to tackle 3. Stacey Jones talking to the trainer about a shoulder problem. He's not even looking at the play. No intention of getting back just at the moment. It's a war of attrition.
One fresh man still on the bench for New Zealand. That is Motu Tony. But they don't want to lose their general, Stacey Jones. Solomona again. And straight away, 3 up there in the tackle. And they can't prevent the offload this time. Wiki, he does the same for Lauatiti. Good pickup. Stacey Jones will run. And sure enough, has to fend with a left arm. The little bloke does well, then loses it. Kennedy comes up with it. That should be play on, will it?
Green knock on.
And now Harrigan is going to say an Australian knock on. We will break. 2 points, the difference. New Zealand and the Kangaroos. We enter the final quarter of this game. For those of you who have been in a break, drop ball was the ruling by Bill Harrigan, leading to the New Zealand scrum feed. Lauatiti standing at 5'8", Couldn't get any sort of head of steam up there. 39 metres from the Australian line. Match very much in the balance. And I think it will be, even if we have more points in the next 5 or so minutes. This one is going to go right to the line. Solomona. Passes Wiki, or rather Webke got in there high. Support looming in Ruben Wiki on the inside. Jones left, kicks early for Torpy to chase through. Clinton Torpy comes through. Clinton Torpy! I don't think he won the race. A shake of the head right at the finish. Darren Lockyer will be a very, very relieved man.
Well, you don't see Darren Lockyer gamble too much in his own in goal, or at any time really. But he was willing this one to go dead. We said in the first half they're much bigger in goals than we get on a weekly basis with the NRL. Lockyer took a couple of swipes at it and missed it. And no, I don't think we can award that one a try. A real let-off here for the Australian fullback, who rolled the dice. And Torpy has been unable to get downward pressure on the ball, I believe. What do you think, Vossi? I don't think we can give that.
I can't give it a try. He's knocked it on at the first instance. Of course, it becomes a double whammy against New Zealand. I mean, if Lockyer gets to it first, bats it dead, it's a goal line dropout. Now he doesn't bat it dead, it's off Torpy, and it becomes a 20-metre restart on the back of a no try. So in hindsight, if you can't get the try, New Zealand would have been hoping for the line dropout. And they're not going to get it. And it will be the Australians with a tap restart from the 20. And that is the decision official.
Interesting to see how the Kiwis handle this little setback. As you say, it's a bad result for them, the 20-metre tap.
Up off feet quickly.
Mentally, they've got to stay in touch with this. They're in front on the scoreboard, but physically they're tiring.
Make the tackle. Do not lie in there. Ali let go now. That's 2.
By the Kiwis, though, to try something a little different. Wing good meters that time for 10 and over the 40. Kamali sets it up for the next play. Menzies with that little hop sideways when he gets the football. He's wrapped up low by Torpy. And now out of dummy half, El Masri able to run. Well, he would love a try on debut. He has landed 3 from 4 off the boot tonight. Kamali will kick for the wing of Tamana Tahu. There's a bit of pressure on Utai. Tahu gets there first. The bat back to Kennedy, who knocks on. It was brewing, and then they turned the heaters off, and the Kiwis will have a scrum feed.
Good kick by Kamali. Stretch the Kiwis. Tamana Tahu got to it first, bats it back on the inside. He detracted 2, and the knees of Kennedy got in the way. Unable to get it, and a turnover here straight away from the Kiwis sees the Australians on the attack.
The pass almost knocked Jerry Suyu's head off. And the Australians have the ball 10 metres out, and normally you will pay the ultimate price in this position. Menzies, 5 from the line, and offloading for Wing. Then it goes for Stevens. Now for Hill. Big offload. He doesn't need to pass. He scores himself. He had 3 or 4 on his outside and somehow worked himself free to get over the line. And the Kangaroos in front for the first time in the match.
See, this is where you've got to be strong mentally. As I said, the Kiwis' heads are still at the other end of the field with the missed opportunity to Torpy. Their next 2 sets of 6 are poor in defence. Wing gets an offload, gets it on to Stevens, Stevens to Hill, Hill swivels, tired defence, pulls through and puts the Australians in front for the first time in this game. Good work by Scotty Hill. Summed it up beautifully, showed some strength, held onto the ball, gets across the line. But the Kiwis, as I said, mentally just lost touch with the game for a few moments, reflecting on the misfortune at the other end of the field. And when you lose touch with what's happening right now at this level of football, you pay big time. Was it about this time that the Warriors last week started to pay the penalty against the Roosters in the grand final in the NRL? And now at the 62nd minute of this test match, 63rd minute, the Australians get to the front for the first time. And I doubt whether they will let it go.
We were at the World Cup final in 2000. And again, you can draw a comparison there. It was in this final 15 minutes that the Australians were able to put a rush of points on the board. Will it be the story tonight? There's plenty in this ground that will will the Kiwis across the line. El Masri, this kick, his 5th of the night. From 20 metres in from touch, El Masri has got it going with a boot now. 9 Saturday night football, 28-24 to the Kangaroos. Again, the try, Menzies able to work free despite the attentions of 3 defenders. And Scott Hill, spin and scores. So the action, it is very much in the court of the Kiwis now. What sort of response can they come up to the try by the Australians and the fact they are behind for the first time in the game? 28-24 as we enter the final 15 minutes of this contest. This one-off Keno test to finish the year.
Stand up, Jason. 3.
At least finish the year for the Australians as Stevens has tackled 40 metres out. This time it is Menzies.
4.
And the Kiwi chant is up. And it hasn't resounded really since the opening 10 or 15 minutes. That kick from Kamali off the back of Swain wasn't played at. And Stevens suddenly has a chance to run like a centre 3/4. And now it is the last tackle. Kamali will get a second kick in this set. He's kicked right to the corner. It's a good one from Kamali. Violecki, only a metre out from his own goal line. Nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's a test match kick. Brett Kamali raced around to the short side, put it down into the corner. Now watch the Australian defence tee up on these tired Kiwis as they try to work it off their own line.
So you see the only forward back in a position to take a hit up. And he is held on the 10-metre line. That was tackle number 3. They are doing it tough here. Utah made another 5. And this time it is Guttenbiel over the 20. But that is the 5th tackle. So Violecki fielded it just outside his own goal line. They make only 20 metres in the set. And then the kick, it's a good one. In fact, it's outstanding. To give his tired troops a chance to regroup, Lance Ahaya has come up with a huge play.
And I don't know that shouldn't be rewarded in our game. We have a 40-20 option in rugby league. If you kick it from inside your own 40 and find touch in the opposition 20, you get the scrum feed. Well, he kicks this from inside his own 30 and finds touch inside the 30 at the other end of the field. It's the same distance kick. It's the same talent, but goes unrewarded because possession will now go to the Australians. I think if you're looking for a game with more scrum feeds in attacking positions, that may be an option to the rules that we can find.
And the Australians from the scrum. Brent Tate had a lot of work to do tonight. As Mason stretches on the sideline. Ready for another entry into this game. He was good in the first half. In fact, you've got to say that Fitzgibbon, Mason, Wing all did their job off the bench. They came into the match with a side in a little bit of trouble. Here is Menzies.
Well, during that time, the Australians have actually won the football game 22-6. They were down 18-6. It's now 28-24. And for the Kiwis, if they hope to win this game, they can't afford the Australians to score again before full time. They have to be the only team to score in the dying 12 minutes of this game.
Badera's able to offload. Exploding through the gap is Barrett. Takes them on again. A juggle for Gidley. The flick out the back with El Masri. 10 from the line. Wiki has got back there with Violecki.
They're in terrible trouble out on the left.
The knockout punch is waiting to be thrown. Barrett. Kamali. It's a long ball required. Intercept attempt from Utah. Comes down for Hill for Kennedy. Kennedy will march over. Kennedy scores. And the Australians, they take a giant step towards victory. 32-24.
Yeah, I would say that is the test match gone. Even though we have 11 minutes left on the clock, from what I've seen in the first part of this second half, the Australians have broken their spirit. They were in awful trouble. We said it. Here's a knockdown from Badiris out the back to Trent Barrett in open space. Got a beautiful pass out to Gidley, who juggled, flick pass into El Masri. And from this play the ball, the Kiwis were always in trouble out on the left. They knew it. A long pass from Kamali found Hill. Utah raced up and tried to cut them off. There was a host of Australians on the outside. Look, anyone could have scored the try. Kennedy got it, beat some tired defence and goes in. Tallis and Fitzgibbon celebrate. They've played their part in this game, that's for sure. And Ben Kennedy, who hasn't had a lot of recent football, hasn't had a lot of football this season, in fact, will cap off a frustrating year with perhaps the try that wins the Test match here for Australia over in Wellington.
Kennedy, in fact, just 11 games for Newcastle this year and 1 State of Origin appearance. Suffered a broken shoulder back in May, playing for the Knights against Souths. And as Gus says, a try that could well be the sealer. Modu Tony now out there, giving some encouragement. But it's not just 1 try they need now, it is 2.
You could see them physically and mentally drop the Kiwis, couldn't you? I mean, when Torpy missed that opportunity at the other end of the field, they just haven't had their heads on since that time. They couldn't afford to let the Australians score again. If they were to win, they had to keep their defence intact. But they've become brittle up the middle. That's given advantage to the outside players, and Hill and Kennedy have run in tries against very meek and tired defence on the edges. El Masri now, I think he's found his range. What do you think, Vossi?
Certainly has. It's been slightly different, the style. He's really been looking to drive them low. And this kick, not his best. It was a wobbly old kick from Hassan. His second miss of the night. But is the game in their keeping? Still a little bit of tension on the face of Tallis and Fitzgibbon at 32-24. And no short kickoff. They go deep with Swain. And Barrett able to field it, and Webke is charging back to the 20. I'll still remember the first tackle of the match tonight. See you on Webke. Crowd tonight just over the 25,000 mark in the cake tin here in Wellington. And I'm sure that the Warriors, the New Zealand Warriors, can take some credit for that as well, for their efforts this year to have interest in rugby league in mid-October in the south of the North Island. And Baderis for Webke. 5 metres inside their own half. 8 points is the margin. Baderis goes for a little run to that left side and held up on halfway. He'll be very fresh. He's the player when 100% fit. He's rarely replaced at Newcastle. He's an 80-minute player. Oh, there's a forward ball from Kamali, and picked up by the touch judges, who let that be known to Bill Harrigan, and it was on the last tackle, so it will be a changeover.
And New Zealand coach Gary Freeman has got himself in interchange trouble. They've in fact used all their replacements with 8 minutes left on the clock. Australia have only used 9. They've got fresh bodies if they need them. But whatever players are out there for New Zealand, they're the ones that have got to get it done.
Fafili heads back in field. Well, in fact, he only had 4 up his sleeve, I think, going into the last 30 minutes of the game. Richard Swain for Jones. And then back with Kearney. And the Australians have worked hard at locking up the ball. It was poor early on. They couldn't prevent the offloads, but they've done well in their second half. And now they hunt in. And then there's an intercept. And Tate passes for Tahu. And Tahu is rounded up 5 metres inside his own half. But another nail is driven in on the chances for New Zealand to get out of jail here.
Jerry, quickly roll off him. Hold here. It's 2.
On halfway. And Tate, he's had plenty of possessions. He's taken high a loose arm from Ali Lauatiti. In a bit of trouble from the test match, or rather the grand final last Sunday night. And also in trouble is Brent Tate right here, the young Bronco. It didn't look that malicious on first watching, but it has done some damage, obviously, to young Brent.
It was a tired effort. Brent Tate cut back inside, over the top, bang. Well, as I said, 118 kilos, 6'6". Those big arms are like tree trunks. Got him right across the jaw, and Tate is not healthy. He wouldn't stay down unless he was injured.
We do take it all back, Gus, on the replay. It's just a clear case of the forearm to the head, but you're right, it was a tight arm thrown out on a player who was stepping and not completely upright, Brent Tate.
Tackle, Ali, too high. It's going on report, right?
And he is on report for the second time in a week. He copped a points penalty out of the grand final, pleaded guilty early to allow him to play tonight. And I don't think there's going to be too much argument about point of contact or the like on that incident. So he'll have to serve whatever penalty on their tour of Great Britain and France. Concern from Gordon Tallis for his Broncos teammate.
It's a fair whack. It was a clumsy effort, a tired effort. It's really caught Brent Tate, and that's not nice at the end of his test match. He fell awkwardly too, as you can see. He's limping. He's not only got the stars going around in the head. His leg's a little bit sore from the way he was twisted in the effort. And the New Zealand Kiwis, just like the New Zealand Warriors last week, have got to understand that big matches are won at the back end. You can't win the game in the first 20 minutes. You can lose it in the first 20 minutes, but you can't win a game in the first 20 minutes. You've got to be strong at the back end. And that's where the Australians have really put the foot down tonight. And an interesting decision here by El Masri, I think, just to wear down the clock now, to have a shot from 40 metres out.
Interesting here, Bill Harrigan did rule time off early as they waited for the tee, and he hasn't ruled time back on. So basically we're breaking with all rules of the game, if you like. It's going to be time off for this kick. He hasn't blown time back on, so we're a little out of order with this, and it plays to the advantage of the Kiwis. They will have time. I mean, he's allowed a reasonable amount of time to go for goal, but basically Bill has ruled time off right from the get-go. Now he's blown time back on. So he's just used his feel for it there, Bill.
Discretionary powers, I think you call it, Wassy. Discretionary powers. As you said, El Masri driving the ball low tonight. He's had good success. He said during the week he didn't know which way the wind was blowing or where it was likely to blow. 40 metres out. This could go anywhere.
4 from 6 off the boot of Hazem El Magic. El Masri's kick. It comes down short. He doesn't strike it anywhere near like he would have hoped. And Violecki comes back and able to pass. Modu Tony. He plays without a compass, this youngster. Tackled 19 metres out from his own line. Where there is life, there is hope. They are inside the final 6. And the margin, the deficit is 8 points. New Zealand 25 metres out from their own line. Swain, they work right. Guttenbeil was hit hard, but then able to bounce and keep moving. But they are making nowhere near the ground they were in the first half. It comes for CUCU. He puts an angle in his run and beautifully tackled by Stephen Menzies. Swain on the 40-metre line, running again. Can't offload this time. And 5 inside his own half on the last tackle. They need a result on this play. Jones passes back. Then with a Guttenbeil's the man you want getting it. Kearney gets it away for Lauatiti. Around the back now for Torpy. Torpy brings Farfili inside. He keeps it alive with a long pass. Kearney now, 30 metres out back for Violecki. Then it's away for Lauatiti. He passes to himself, picks it up on the bounce, and Harrigan out of that is going to say a knock on. Well, I don't know where the knock on was in that.
Lauatiti fooled himself there. Do I pass? Do I run? Do I step? What do I do? In the end, he just dropped the ball. Anti-climax. They were building up to something there.
4.5 minutes remaining. And this was it from Lauatiti at the finish. Well, he's passed it back. And he's lost it. If a teammate picks it up, I think it's play on, so pretty hard to rule against Lauatiti for a knock on. Australians on their own 40-metre line. And Badderas for Webke. Well, if it is a game of last man standing, Webke's still out there after the punishment he copped early. He's kept on going. And Badderas well contained there by Vangana. Scott Hill with a short kick, sending Wing on the chase. Needs a bounce, doesn't get it. And Violecki does a good job at fullback there. That wasn't easy.
He's had a good game tonight, Scott Hill. Had a hand in a couple of tries, scored one himself. And again, probing down the short side on the last play. A chip kick over the top for Craig Wing, who's now playing in the centres. Brent Tate has left the field.
And on their 30, that was the pickup of Violecki as Wing came streaming through. but again, they're labouring a little, trying to make ground in the set. They look to spread wide. Motu Tony passes for Guttenbeil. And again, they reach tackle number 5, and again, it's inside their own half. Jones runs on the last. Chips, and the kick is wide and out on the full. It will be a changeover again. They just can't get the result. If they were to snatch some sort of miracle. Now 3 minutes remaining. This the player Stacey Jones looking to set Matt Newtie on a run.
You've got to imagine too that some of these Australians who haven't played much in the last 3 or 4 weeks are playing themselves back into form. The further the game has gone, the better their timing, the better their defence, the better their ball control, the harder they're running. They've just shown their class. They're a super football team. Played earlier this year, beat Great Britain 64-10, but we had half a dozen changes from that team. Just brought in another group of players who've come out and rounded up the Kiwis.
The last time this season we see the Gidley flick pass, his trademark. Back that time for El Masri. New centre wing combination. Kamali for Hill. Delivers the pass for Lockyer. Runs up at Vangana, who does it again. Rarely missing a tackle in this match. Australians 20 metres away. And for New Zealand's sake, I hope the Australians don't score here. Do they deserve to lose by 13 plus? Here is Hill going across field. Good tackle by Stephen Kearney. 15 away, last tackle with the Kangaroos. They will look to Barrett left or Kamali right. It is right they go with their number 7. His kick. Jones has fumbled, but has still forced the football for a line dropout. And Webke was there. He would have had his first test try.
Yeah, nice little incident back play too. Kearney and Scott Hill were pushing at each other in the play the ball. Here's the kick from Kamali into the in goal. Jones couldn't get a handle on it. Webke so close. Where is it? Where is it?
The kick fielded by El Masri. It is 25 metres away as we come up to the final 60 seconds of the match. Menzies for Webke. He's lost it. Jones has also knocked on, and in fact, I thought it may have been a knock on against the Kiwis. He's got it both ways, so New Zealand will have a scrum feed. And all chance of victory now gone, but they will have one last shot for points.
As I was saying earlier, there was a little bit of a push and shove in the play of the ball between Stephen Kearney and Scott Hill, teammates at the Melbourne Storm. They had a swing at each other. Then they looked to see who it was. They backed away. And once that line dropout was awarded, Hill then went over and thanked Stephen Kearney for not going on with it.
And fair enough too. 25 metres out from their line, Richard Swain, who scored the first try of the night. Guttenbeil back with Ruben Wiki. Wiki has been very strong tonight. Swain gets another run. As we close in on full time, Stephen Kearney for Jones, and then Tony. He kicks. Vangana and Newtie are set off on the chase, and Lockyer. That is classy, and Lockyer takes off from the standing start. Now they have to try and stop him. Passes back in field. They kept it alive, and then Big Willie Mason comes up with the ball. But Bill Harrigan will put an end to all of this with a full-time siren sounding. Quite spectacular, the finish. Magical play from Darren Lockyer. But the end of the test match, the drought continues for New Zealand. Australia have fought back at one stage, trailing by 12 points in the first half. In fact, they have kept the Kiwis scoreless in the second 40 minutes to win 32 points to 24.
So the world champions reign supreme. They were trailing by 8 points at half-time, but they did win the second half, 16 points to 0. Confirmation of that one-off test match scoreline. The Aussies, 32, have defeated the Kiwis, 24. Well, they still are at the top of the tree, the Aussies, but they won that one, and there were plenty of scary moments along the way. We have our Great Britain coach here in the studio with us, David Waite. Did it go as you expected? I mean, are you fearful of these Kiwis? They really did shake the Aussies.
Oh, you're always fearful of and respect the opposition at number 2 in the world. Our goal, of course, is to beat them at that. But what we saw was Australian believe in their method, have the discipline to stick to their method and the patience, improve their defence, as we mentioned. No tries to New Zealand in the second half, and they came away with a ground-out win on the back of a change in attitude. New Zealand failed to get any field position with 6 attempts at the beginning of the second half. They showed their hand. They were still going to throw the ball around, and that cost them dearly.
So what does that tell you then ahead of this tour? They arrive in the capital on Monday, the first test on November 9. There are some weaknesses there. You don't want to give any secrets away, I'm sure.
Well, every side has a weakness, but what we do know is that it's certainly going to be entertaining. Anyone that loves rugby league love the way that New Zealand play. They're big, they're quick, they're powerful, and they are creative to the very last thing. Even trying to keep the ball in play, we saw some fantastic moments of ball control. So it'll certainly be exciting, and it's a huge challenge for us. We're very, very keen to look to get back on the horse after the test in Australia. We want to build on what happened against the Aussies in November, and there's not a lot of difference, I don't think, between where the two nations are at the moment, and that's to be proved over a 3-test series.
Like we saw the Aussies do there in the second half, once they got their big men going forward, well, the whole momentum of the game changed. I guess you'll be trying to do the same with your big men.
Yeah, I thought Wing did a good job at the beginning of the second half from dummy half for them, put the big men onto the line, but I thought what changed was their defence and their discipline, and the errors would have been at least 2 or 3 to 1 in favour of the New Zealanders in the second half, and the Aussies just ground out what they do best, which is patience and time and field position, and rely on some individual brilliance. And we saw some. That Scott Hill had some great moments in that half, you know, and that's the key to the game.
How are you holding up? I mean, you're carrying the weight of the nation on your shoulders as Great Britain coach. You fear nothing.
No. What I have got is an awful lot of confidence in the ability of the players that will represent Great Britain. I've got my fingers crossed, like most GB supporters have, that they come through the grand final and the game against the Kiwis.
Well, very good luck with that, David Wade, our Great Britain coach. You can see the Kiwis, of course, their first match here on British soil.
Sky Sports this winter is explosive.
Rugby League.
Great Britain v New Zealand in 3 tests.
Cricket.
The Ashes and the World Cup.
Rugby Union.
England face New Zealand, Australia and South Africa at Twickenham.
Football.
More explosive action with the Premiership, the Football League, La Liga, the Bundesliga, also the FA Cup, Worthington Cup and Scottish Cup. Sky Sports this winter. It's hot.
I used to be horrified by computers at school. I work in IT and communications in the army. Lawrence! I hate the name Lawrence. Call me Flo.
Up there. Roger,
I'll provide communications so that the army can do their job. We do use a lot of secret kit. Call 08457 300 111. You already own a piece of communications equipment. Use it.
It was a simple plan, a plan to save people money by making their finances work together. It meant some homeowners could reduce the length of their mortgage by around 5 years, while others could save £600 a year. And if everyone had Open Plan, the whole country would be billions better off. Open Plan from Barclays.
It. Oh, yes.
What a great night of you.
No, I didn't. You're being a complete pig.
What? When?
All night. I'm sleeping on the sofa.
No, you're right. I have been a complete pig.
No, it's all right.
I'm the man. The man always sleeps on the sofa.
Not a man. I'll have the sofa.
I paid for that.
I picked it.
I picked the colour. I just want to spend some time with my sofa.
Oh, dear me.
I'll fight you for it.
We'll pick up from your office and guarantee next morning delivery from £3.65 or your money back. That's Royal Mail Special Delivery.
X-Files Season 5 on DVD, with revealing extras taking you closer to the truth. X-Files DVD box set. Buy from Monday.
What have you been up to, Mr. Moneybags?
It's okay. I put it on the credit card.
The credit card?
Don't worry. It's our new Capital One No Hassle Platinum card.
The Capital One No Hassle Platinum Card with 0% for 6 months, a low long-term APR of 11.5% and no fraud liability.
What's in your wallet?
3 internationals on Tuesday night, all live only on Sky Sports. Scotland play Canada, plus 2 under-21 games for England and the Republic of Ireland.
This